Hey guys, for this video, we're going to be doing gray blending. I'm super excited. I'm glad that women are feeling more comfortable to be able to embrace their gray and go a little bit more natural. So I've been having a lot more of these clients come through, which is awesome. So today, this is the service that we're going to be going over is how to transition into blending gray. You guys can follow me on Instagram at Christy at the Cottage. All right, here's my client's before. You can definitely see she has a lot of warmth in her hair. We're going to tackle that today and see exactly how much can we eliminate.
Let me show you guys something. Yeah, just me and the girls hanging out today at work. The Golden Girls, that is. So, what we're doing today in this video is a gray blending. And I know a few people have asked about this service and kind of how to go about it. Apparently she's not doing like a gray like transformation, like to blend it completely with her gray and to get rid of all of the color, match up her gray. Like she doesn't want to leave gray or silver. So we're definitely going to blend it in with her gray. She asked about a root shadow because she likes that dimension, and I told her that would create more of a line of demarcation than what she already has. She has a previous color on her ends, so she's kind of like sitting at a warm level 8, kind of those orangey, you know, lifting through dark color type of thing. So she did mention that she had a little bit of damage previously with some of the other services. So I told her, this is the first time I'm coloring your hair, so I don't know how much I really want to like knock it out and just, you know, do a full heavy foil. So today for the first time, we'll just go through and do like a really fine partial foil of BABYLIGHTS. That way we kind of break up her roots a little bit, lighten it slightly to blend it in with her natural color, and then really carefully try to lighten through the ends that she has. Actually, now that I'm talking about it, to be safe, I'm actually going to use 7 volume through the ends of her hair. That way it doesn't, you know, create too high of lift or too much damage or whatever. So that's our goal today. She wants to leave more with like a blonde highlight, not necessarily like a silvery highlight. So this isn't really as great blending as I thought it would be, but I thought it'd still be good to do the service just because I know you guys have asked about this a little bit. So that's what we're gonna do today. And I'm gonna start with my Schwarzkopf Blonde Me with Olaplex and 20 volume for her roots. And then just through the ends, I'm gonna go through with 7 volume. So me and the girls will see you later.
All right, so here's the bleach that I'll be using, Schwarzkopf Blonde Me, 20 and 7 volume with Olaplex. And to start her service with any other foil that I do, I'm going to start around the hairline, and we're going to tackle this with 7 volume just because, you know, it's going to lighten really nicely and the hair is a little bit more delicate around the face anyways. So it's best just go with something a little bit softer, especially since it's going to be sitting a little bit longer. So with any of my other videos that I do, we're just going to go around and do the highlights around her face, just some really soft BABYLIGHTS, not any heavy weaves or anything where she's going to notice any grow out. We'll probably do maybe like 3 or 4 foils back and then go at the top of her hairline. we're just going to flip to the side now and repeat the same thing. By the way, throughout the video, I feel like I get into a lot of detail about this kind of service with gray blending and how to go about tackling the warmth and talking to your clients about it and all of that stuff. So I'm really not going to go over and like go into too much depth and detail with my voiceovers. So I'm just going to let the video play, and then throughout the video service, we'll kind of talk about some of those things. All right, so now we're gonna go up into the hairline right now, and I'm gonna do these foils extending from the center to the sides. That way I can make sure that she has full coverage around her hairline. If somebody has a forehead that's just like straight or crossed, then that's okay to go straight down the center. But because her forehead is more of like kind of a V shape and has more of a slight point to it in the center, it's better to just kind of go from the center to the sides versus just straight back, because then you might just be getting like the very point of that if you just do like 3 foils, and then you might have these like holes at the very sides of her forehead of her dark natural with no highlights to blend. So every client is different. Just do your foil based off of your client's forehead and their face shape and everything like that to make sure that you give them full coverage. By the way, can we talk about Ma stealing the spotlight right now? Hi, Sophia, looking like a cute little cutie pie. All right, now that we're done with her facial framing highlights, we're going to start doing the partial foil, and we're doing definitely more of like a baby light. These are really thin sections that we're taking. They're not very thick and heavy at all. So I definitely consider these more baby lights. So we're just gonna go through and do from basically like the sides and through the top, and then down through the back a little bit to connect the sides. And I feel like the difference between baby lights and a standard weave is because you have to take such thinner sections, you have to pack them in a lot more and do smaller subsections also. So I feel like you're almost doing like twice the work as you would as with just like a basic highlight, basic weave or whatever. But I definitely think that people overuse the term baby light and just call like a regular weave a baby light. So you will see me every now and then like throw in just like a standard weave, but for the most part we're doing just like baby lights just to make sure that there's minimal grow out. I feel like when you go through and do these services, people like their goal, if they're trying to like blend their gray, is to not have to come in every so often and get their hair touched up because they want to be more natural. So going through with something more like a baby light versus like a stronger weave is going to give them a little bit more longevity and more time between when they need to come in. And our goal is that hopefully she's able to go a while in between services and maybe not even really have to touch up the highlights unless she wants to break up her roots and feel a little bit brighter. But maybe the goal is that from now on, all she has to do is do like a toner. Obviously it's going to fade. Obviously the warmth is going to show through again, whatever. So, hopefully doing this service, maybe all she'll need to do in the future is just re-gloss her hair and tone down the warmth. Also, because she parts her hair on this side, I am taking less of a subsection than what I'm going to do as I do like the underside and make my way over to the opposite side of her head. I'm going to start spacing out a little bit more, but just right where she parts her hair, I want to make sure that she has good coverage. So I'm going to get them in a little bit tighter here because I don't want her to part her hair and not have any coverage in that area, and then she doesn't feel like it's as blended right there. So just probably like that inch space where her hair generally falls, where she parts her hair, in that little coveraged area, I do less subsection. And now that we've made it onto the other side of the head, we're just going to repeat the same process. And back here, we're just going to connect the sides in this back area by just doing a few foils up this back section, and everything will connect nicely. She'll have good coverage. And she was wondering about adding some foils underneath, but it's all mostly her natural. So I told her that if you go through and do highlights again, just to add more dimension, eventually those are going to go warm, and then now you're going to be combating the warm tones again. So I would always just leave it without adding any more blonde to it. I've actually had a few people coming into me wanting to like fix their gray hair, and sometimes I'm like, maybe we just need to do a toner. Like, it's not that I don't want to do your hair and foil it or whatever, but I feel like going through and foiling it again might just be adding more problems to the hair, because over time with heat damage, whatever, like the warmth always comes back. So if you go through and do highlights, then potentially down the road you're just going to be creating more of a problem. So sometimes just toning the hair or leaving it alone is the answer. So this is why we just did this top section and didn't go through the bottom of her hair. All right, so this is everything that we did. A heavy partial of Baby Lights, and I'm just going to go through and check everything. Sometimes, especially with these services, when you're breaking through warmth, you might have to go through and double check everything to make sure that it's lifting. If there's any brassiness, you need to go through and try to break through still. And then now that this is all kind of lifting nicely, we're going to go through and paint through her ends. I know she said that she felt like her ends were a little bit damaged at a point, so I didn't want to let it sit for too long. So now we're going to go through with the bleach, and we're just going to back comb and try to paint through the ends of her hair just to try to lift it a little bit more and see how much we can break through it. I'm also not one to ever set my clients under the dryer with bleach on their hair. I might do it for like a fantasy color or something like a direct deposit. I will not ever put a client that has bleach on their hair in any situation under the dryer. So that's why I think it's okay to sometimes just go through with your blow dryer and just speed it up that way. Just hit it with the blow dryer for a few minutes and, add heat that way. So now we're just going to pull these foils out. You can see that we got some pretty good lift. Obviously, her hair is still warm, but I'm liking the level that we got to. And here's some of those ends, still kind of warm, but this is just part of the process.
Okay, so my client is toning right now. I'm going to go over what we mix for toning. I feel like one thing that's really important when you have somebody that's trying to like gray blending and lifting through previous color is really make them decide what they want to do as far as toning goes, which is what I normally do. My client's totally cool. Like, But in the past, I've had problems where, say you're trying to build through old color that they used to do for like gray coverage or whatever. Well, all of that color on their hair is like really warm and orange. And then when you're trying to lift through the color, it gets really yellow and brassy kind of. So when you tone the hair, like say you're trying to combat the warmth, so then you try to tone down the highlights that you just did to like neutralize the warmth or tone them down a little bit more. So you do more of like a level 8.5, 9 toner. Well, then the client is upset because now they don't like see the highlights anymore, and it like blends really good with their gray, but it's darker. Versus if you tone the hair to be a little bit brighter, which is what they want usually, to see a little bit of brightness, a little bit of highlights. But because they have so much brassiness in the hair, and like you get a nice clean lift at the roots, but the ends are still kind of like a level 8, 9 warm. If you tone it to be a little bit brighter, then they still have all of that brassiness through the ends. And so now they complain that there's too much warmth in the hair. So I always tell my clients, you know, like my client now, she's really sweet, but she just asks like, what do I think is best? And I'm like, it's really, there's no wrong or right answer. It's just personal preference, but I always make you guys decide. And I just explained all that to her. You know, just ask your clients, would you rather see more brightness and warmth in their hair, or would you have it tone down and blend with your gray and cover more of the brassiness up? So always make your client decide, because if you decide for them, they're gonna come back and be like, oh, there's too much warmth, or oh, it's not bright enough. So you just have to explain everything to them ahead of time so that they know what the outcome is gonna be and what to expect. And the ball is in their court, because later, you know, I've done it before where I just did it and they're always unhappy and have something to complain about because, oh, I thought the highlights were going to be brighter, or oh, I thought it wasn't going to be as brassy or warm, and then a few days they call back and you have to readjust it or something. So always make sure that they're making the decision. So she said that she's okay with having it be a little bit brighter and dealing with the brassiness. That's fine. So for her to tone, I did half of my formulation to tone. 9V with Paul Mitchell. The Demi is the line that I'm using to counteract those, try to, you know, get as much as those brassy bits that we can. And then I did a quarter 10 PA and a quarter A in her formulation. I didn't add any warmth to the formulation like I usually add gold, just because she has so much warm tones in her hair already. So I just think that's really important to cover when you're dealing with gray coverage or gray blending or whatever. If somebody's on the transition, just make sure you let them know, like, it could take like 3 times before you're actually really happy with the service, because you have to think, like, if they have all their gray roots, all of this is warm and yellow, that's kind of hard to adjust to having very cool versus very warm in this area. And a lot of clients will say like, oh, it's okay, it's fine, you know, I don't want to pay for the upfront cost of like an 8-hour transformation, so I'll deal with the warmth or whatever. I've had clients actually cry because of how hard it is to get to the adjustment of cool and warm and not having a complete transition right off the bat. But you just have to really explain that to the client, because I've done it to where now I feel bad for charging, so I'll discount my service even though I shouldn't, even though I explained it, whatever. So now I will get it in writing. Like, I understand that I'm gonna have 2 different tones of hair. It's gonna be very brassy and warm. So make sure you do that, because if they sign it and write it, they can't come back and say, well, I didn't know, because that's usually what happens. So I just wanted to go over that with you guys. And I'll show you again what I used to tone.
Okay, so again, half of our formulation was 9V, a quarter 10 PA, and a quarter 10A. And I used the Paul Mitchell processing solution to mix with it, equal parts. All right, so here's her after giving her a quick little snip. And I'm going to show you guys something. I'm leaving a little bit more footage in of blow drying her hair, just because I want you to see the difference of the lighting. We got new lighting in the salon, and it's definitely a much warmer lighting, which shows through how much warmth is left in her hair. But when we get up to the front of the salon, it's crazy. It's like all that warmth just disappears. So lighting makes such a big difference in color and everything. So here's her after, and she was really, really happy with the service. She didn't feel like she saw any warmth in the hair. I definitely see it in this lighting and in this footage and whatever, but it's interesting when she leans forward right here, it cools down because it's not under that direct warm light. And then here's her before again. And here is her hair when she's closer to the light. You can see a little bit more of that warmth showing through. But then in this next clip, her hair looks completely natural right here, as if she never even had any color in her hair. So it makes such a big difference in lighting, natural light, warmth, whatever. So I definitely think when we got to the front, like, it looks so much better. I was actually shocked, like, wow, there really isn't as much light. But I'm going to go over the service and the price breakdown in this next little clip, and it's about 6 minutes long if you don't want to watch it. Okay, so I just rang my client out, and her total came out to be $285 for a heavy partial of Baby Lights. And I explained to her the difference between like a partial foil versus a partial foil of Baby Lights is that Baby Lights are so thin. You have to take smaller subsections, thinner pieces of foil, whatever, that you actually end up packing in a lot more foils in there than if you just were to do like a regular partial foil. So for partial foil of Baby Lights, I think I charged like $125. And then we did an Olaplex treatment, which was maybe $35. We painted through the ends, that was $55. We did a haircut, $30. For doing the additional bowls of bleach, that's like $30. Anyway, so the overall total of everything came out to be $285. And she was really happy with her hair and liked how soft it was and everything, and how much it blended and whatever. So I told her that because it blends so nicely that she might be able to go a little bit longer in between appointments. So that's kind of the nice thing. I wanted to really show you guys this video because I think it's hard when clients especially see gray transformation pictures, like just the before and the after, and if they're doing the full service in one setting, like it can be such a drastic change where there's absolutely no color in the hair. It blends with the gray perfectly. Like if you see any of the because I've had people come to me and they're like, oh, Jack Martin hairstylist, he does do amazing work. His before and afters are incredible. Sometimes I'm like, how the hell did you even do that? But the thing is, people and clients don't realize that people are literally flying all the way around the world to come and see him and paying thousands and thousands of dollars in one sitting for like a 12-hour service to get their hair done. And so clients will come to me oftentimes and say, oh, I want to get this done. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. We need to talk about this just so you're aware. This could take 8 to 12 hours, $100 an hour. That could easily be over $1,000. And then they're like, oh, okay, maybe not. So I want to really show the reality of what an average everyday person, what a gray blending service looks like. If you're not knocking it out in one session, chances are you're still going to have a lot of warmth in the hair. Chances are you're not going to be happy with it 100% until maybe 3 services in. And so that's why I wanted to show the service today, because it takes time. And I want people and stylists to see, like, it's not that you can't accomplish it in one session. It's that it takes time. Maybe it's too damaging to do it in one session. That's why with her, we had to do the Olaplex and whatever. But the reality is that sometimes it takes a little bit for it to really get to the point where you're like, oh, there's absolutely no color left in the hair. It blends perfectly with my gray. Another thing is too, that some people, even though they want to do like gray blending, they don't necessarily want to feel like they have gray hair. So like one of my clients, she has very light silvery gray hair, but we do her gray blending to look as if she just has really blonde highlights. So just because somebody wants to blend their gray doesn't mean they want to feel gray. They just want to feel maybe like they have a very cool blonde. And in that case, that's when I'll go through with do really heavy foil, of Baby Lights and maybe paint more brightness through the ends. That way it gets more of like a brighter blonde color. But up in the root area, it blends really good with their natural hair. So that way when it grows out, it doesn't feel too heavy or anything. And it just blends really nicely with their white silvery color that they have. So always keep that in mind too. Like, talk to your clients. Sometimes they don't want to feel gray and ashy. Sometimes they just want to feel like a really bright, icy blonde that will blend better with their gray than what, like, covering it up with color and fading to like an orangey brassy shade or whatever. So hopefully all of that makes sense. I hope you guys like this video, and I hope it gives you guys some confidence to tackle the service. It can be really hard when a client doesn't understand the process. Show them pictures, show them, like, really break it down to them. Show them this is what you're gonna look like. You're gonna have really brassy ends. Sometimes when you try to break through that color and it's like stuck at that level 9 or whatever, sometimes it's so brassy and bright, it looks like fluorescent yellow because that pigment is just so in there and staining the hair that until you can really lift through it completely. Like, I have one client that took like 4 sessions. That's almost a year worth of trying to break through it. And she was so unhappy, like she was crying. And it makes me feel like shit because then I feel like I can't charge my client, or I don't want to because they're not happy or whatever. But that's just the way that it goes. If somebody doesn't want to pay, you know, for a whole gray transformation for like $800 in one session, which is totally understandable. That's just the process. Like, you're not going to be happy with it for a while, probably. Like, we'll do what we can, but just understand it's going to be very fluorescent. It's going to glow potentially. So anyways, I just wanted to break that down for you guys. I know a lot of people always put out like the finished final end result where everything looks beautiful and amazing, and you are like thinking to yourself, how did they do this? And I would rather show you guys like the process so that you understand, so that clients see this, so that they understand that you know, it's a work in progress. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you like this video. Hope you learned something. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.